This is where episode 10 had ended. Here we are, back, episode 12. It's time to finish the floor deck. I'm back to using up some scrap lumber. These are pieces of oak hardwood, actually, rough cut that we had left over from another project, and I'm using them to make braces to go in between the floor joists to firm this deck frame up and make it a lot stronger before we go ahead and put the subfloor on top. Once that part's done, the base for my cabin is created and it'll be time to make walls. My goal for this week is to get the bracing put across this deck and also to get the subfloor laid. That's it. If I can get those two things done, I'm happy. I can wait till the weekend to start putting the walls up. I have watched quite a few YouTube off-grid cabin building projects, and I'm the most inspired by the ones that go up really quickly, like watch us build a house in a week. I think that's awesome, and it's what I wish I was doing. But right now, that's not going to be the way my project goes up, and there's a lot of good reasons for that. And I think that it's just worth taking a moment to share with you where I am in life and why my project is going to move at a little bit of a slower pace, but I hope that it also inspires you. Here's the lowdown. I am the mama of 2 active little girls. Both of them are my homeschool students as well. So we spend our time diving deep into all kinds of things as we approach learning with a very much a unschool model of doing things. Those explorations know no bounds. I am also the wife to my husband of 17 years. We own our own business, and sometimes that takes some time out of my life. Most of the times it doesn't, and I am very appreciative for all that he does. I also help co-host our neighbor's Airbnb, so I am busy cleaning over there and taking care of guests, and sometimes that means taking them on a complimentary hike, but that's okay. These are the things I like to do. That's why my cabin won't be built in a week. So my days look a lot like mom stuff. Cleaning the house, cleaning the cabin, doing laundry, lots of laundry. I'm homeschooling, involved with our homeschool group, leading activities, running errands, and hoping to get an hour or 2 on a regular basis to devote to this project and working on the cabin. And then the goal is I'm going to get to it on the weekends and slam out as much then as possible. Look at my professional strap job. Are you impressed?
I am impressed.
I saw my husband stopping by the office for a little bit, and I took advantage of this to get my plywood unloaded. There was no way I was getting that accomplished by myself. Full disclosure here, this entire experience is 110% learning for me. I am not an expert at any of this. This is not what I went to school for. This is not what I spent 15 years in the workforce doing. So I'm learning as I go. I know that the next proper step is for me to put tongue and grooved subflooring onto my cabin deck that I've built. But I'm choosing to save some money by going with plain 3/4 inch pressure treated plywood. Now, I chose pressure treated because I thought that would give me additional moisture resistance, and I also chose to go with regular plywood over tongue and groove because I was not overly concerned about having smooth, seamless seams because I'm not putting down carpet or tile or laminate or linoleum. Instead, I am putting down hardwood floors into this cabin, and we can talk more about that. You'll see it later, but it's wood that I already have from this property that is literally just sitting around, and I'm going to take it to the sawmill and get it turned into tongue and groove boards for hardwood flooring. Since I'm putting that hardwood doing doing this pressure treated plywood instead of tongue and groove. But maybe I won't. So I'll let you know, future episode, whether or not this is an oops. So it's my husband that's an equipment operator for a living, not me. And the truth is, when I dropped this lumber off onto the deck frame, which I thought would save me some work, instead of setting it somewhere else on boards and carrying it up to the deck, I bumped my frame and got it off of square. Man. So thankfully, he's pretty smooth with a piece of equipment. He was able to come back. He tapped the edges ever so gently with the skid loader with the forks on, and we brought it back into square. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I did not realize how touchy this big square box was that I had built. I thought that it was braced up and sturdy and I didn't have to worry anymore about keeping it square. I learned yet another lesson in carpentry. It matters, it matters, it matters. I got Carter back working with me this evening. He was great help on the deck project, and I am sure he will be great help for me here as I work on this off-grid cabin build. He is going to help me slap these pieces of plywood up and into place. It's going to make it a whole lot easier than me dragging them out across this deck on my own. We're beating liquid nails down across these joists before we lay the plywood pieces in place, and then we will screw them down. That's the plan. That's how simple it should be. There is so much to love about a late summer, late afternoon, rain. except for the fact that I really wanted to get the last 4 pieces of plywood on this deck today. So we're going to get a little wet doing it, but we're going to get them popped down and get this wrapped up. Yesterday when we laid these plywood sheets, I put the screws into the joist while Carter was going around to the seams with the liquid nails and putting a bead down across the seams that ran perpendicular to the floor joist. We did that to try to create a little extra moisture barrier and air draft barrier. However, if it doesn't dry up the way we think it's going to, it's fine. I could always put some like weather taping or some other kind of wrap over those seams just to make sure that I've made a good moisture seal and that I am not going to have drafty air coming up through the floor. Now, with that said, I should also point out, and maybe you're already wondering, we didn't put insulation in our floor, and that was something that we talked quite a bit about. We, as in my husband and my dad and I know a lot of people do that when they do these off-grid cabin builds. That's a tongue twister. But we chose not to. I do plan on heating this cabin with a wood stove. Even a small wood stove throws off a lot of heat. We are going to be insulating the walls and the ceiling. We have chosen not to insulate the floor. Hopefully that is a cost savings that is smart and not a mistake. We will find out, and I guess I can let you know at some other point in time whether that was a good call or one we might regret.
Oh, we should get him out. Hello, Froggy.
The Eastern American toad, they are everywhere around here. My kids literally invest hours into playing with these guys outside, especially in the evening when it's late. This little one, he's found his way under the floor deck, but he'll be fine. He can escape out the other end. There's a big enough hole. The rain really isn't so bad when we're under the canopy of the forest. It's still a little wet, but I mean, it's certainly not like standing out in the broad open, and the sound effect of the rain on the leaves is awesome, and it just kind of has me thinking how nice it'll be to sit out here on a porch or inside with the windows open on a rainy day if you're a guest staying here at the Fern House. Here we go. The last one's in place. I feel like I'm checking off a mental checkbox right now. Victory has been made over this step in the process, and I am ready for the walls. Well, almost ready for the walls. First, I have to trim off the excess plywood on this deck, and I waited for a drier day to do that. I couldn't even make a chalk line with all that wet wood, so today, everything's aired out, it's dry. I can make a chalk line on this deck and get that excess plywood cut off. Well, that was less than epic. Definitely not my best display of skills there. All I gotta do now is cover the edge of my frame so that I have a solid base to set my walls up on. This right here is a rookie's mistake by far. Anybody that knew what they were doing probably would not be doing what I'm doing right now, but I had to start my plywood several inches in to make sure that it was going to fall on my joist, and that's simply because of how I measured them, the placement of them from the get-go. It's fine, it's not a big deal. I was able to put extra lumber in on the inside of that framing piece to support my pieces of plywood, and now I'll just make these little caps across the end, and we'll just pretend that that didn't happen. But I'll let you in on it because it's kind of part of the beauty of the build, right? It's a learning experience, and I'm happy to be able to share that journey with you. On that note, I'm going to say thank you. Thank you for watching, and thank you for liking and subscribing. Thanks for the comments. They've been great too. I've had friends pick up the phone and give me some insight as well, and I really appreciate that. If you're new to the Burn House project, this is a guest house that I'm looking forward to opening up to folks for some personal retreat, hopefully this coming spring. So stay tuned, like and subscribe. I'm glad to keep you on the journey and have this archives available at some point for guests to look back and see how their oasis was created. Thanks, have a wonderful day, stay inspired, and keep being creative.